Hi everyone, me again. In the garden this time. Thought I'd give you a little tour of what we've got going on here. I just did some planting, more planting. Um, I put in some peas on this side and beans on this side today. And over here, a couple days ago I planted some onions on the far end, and then over here I've got some more root vegetables planted. One thing I planted this year that we haven't planted very much of is carrots. For whatever reason, carrots just never seem to do very well with our ground, so we never really grew them, but I'm hoping this year, with proper spacing of the seeds, that they'll actually take off. We've got carrots, beets, radishes, and I planted something, it's called a red beard onion, so we'll see how those go. And then yellow onions, red onions, and green onions. And then over here we have mounded potatoes. The best part about potatoes, especially for the purposes of wanting to provide food for your family, is potatoes are a high calorie dense vegetable. So you get a lot of calories and a lot of nutrients from potatoes, and they store well. The thing about potatoes too is that while it's not a high source of protein, it's a complete source of protein. So you're getting some protein and at a complete source of that as well too. So, you never know if food supplies run out and you can't get rice, you can't get much starchy things. Potatoes is a very good carbohydrate filler as well too for those things. So, we're growing lots of those because I think we're going to be needing a lot of potatoes. Moving along, I've got we mounded some mounds here for our tomato plants. We have things going, seedlings going on in our greenhouse right now. Corn, tomatoes, zucchini, cucumbers, things like that. A couple pepper plants. Pepper plants haven't done very well here either, but we're going to see how they do this year. We even have one eggplant in there as well. We've got some spaghetti squash and some buttercup squash too, which we're going to be planting in the garden as well. So hopefully those seedlings will take root soon. And then here I planted some leafy greens. I have broccoli, Swiss chard, kale, and lettuce. One thing I was reading about with kale is that it is a very quick growing vegetable, and it yields a lot. I've grown kale in the past. I love it. It's probably my favorite garden vegetable, and it yields a lot. So we've planted early. We're at the end of April right now, for the kale anyway, and we'll probably see yields, I'm thinking, probably by early June. And by that time, once we can start harvesting kale, mid-June maybe, you can plant more. So it was just something that I was reading up about kale. I've got lettuce in this row here. I've got another bed here. Not sure what we're going to put in here, but maybe the pepper plants, maybe the eggplant, I don't know. But lettuce likes cooler, shaded areas, so I'm hoping that with something here it'll shade it, and also with the neighbors' plants they've got going with the shrubage, that'll also contribute some shade. And right beside where we have our leafy greens, we're also planting corn in this area right here, which will hopefully provide a lot of shade for our leafy green vegetables. And then over in this corner, we're going to be planting squash. A thing about squash that we learned recently is don't plant your squash plants together because they can cross-pollinate. So here we're going to be planting our buttercup squash, and over here we're going to be planting our spaghetti squash by the fence, and use the fence there and the fence along there as a trellis to guide the squash vines. So we're hoping that that works out well. In this area we'll probably put all our zucchini plants that we've got going on, and our cucumbers as well. Zucchinis actually are good to plant with winter squash like spaghetti squash or buttercup squash. because zucchini squash is more of a summer squash. So you shouldn't plant those with any summer squashes, but you can plant them beside a winter squash. So planting the zucchini by another squash is okay. And here you can see our rhubarb is coming up. And we always get lots and lots of rhubarb. Here is our apple tree. Nothing to look out right now, but this guy gets really super big and bushy. And he does really good for us. And this tree, he tries real hard every single year, and he always gives us very beautiful, good apples. And we have another fruit tree here. This is a plum tree. We've had to trim it down. It was getting some pests, which we're not really sure how to take care of yet, but we'll have to look into that. So we trimmed it down, and hopefully we'll see what she does this year. Hoping to probably put in a strawberry bush as well. I have to do a little more research on that though, because I'm not really sure what strawberries like, so I didn't plant those today. Probably tomorrow I'll put those in. And right there, I don't know if you can see it, but that's a cherry tree. The cherries on it are quite small, and it's a very tiny tree, and the cherries are really sour, so I'm not sure what that tree's going to do this year. But I know we'll get apples. That's one thing, and we'll definitely get rhubarb. That's another thing. And here's our lovely little rose bush. This guy was such a fighter. All our roses died except for him, and he's a trooper. Anyway, that's what we've got going on. So if you haven't planted a garden, I highly recommend that you do so. These are very strange times we're in right now, everyone, and you know, we need to provide for our families, and we need to grow our own food. And you know, as I said earlier, I am not an expert, neither is my husband. We just do what we can with what we've got, and we try really hard, and you know, so that we won't just survive, we'll thrive. So with that, gonna sign off this video, and take care everyone, and God bless.